I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let me thank all the viewers and subscribers for watching my videos and participating actively. Here we have an excellent request from Brisbane, Australia. The important thing here is that this student is middle school student who is trying to attempt and understand how to solve high school questions. That is very encouraging, and I'm privileged to provide a solution. I'm going to talk about few concepts before getting into the solution, understanding the situation here. The question here is, a plane flies from city A to city B and back again. City A and city B are 1000 kilometers apart. The total journey takes 10 hours. One on the way to city B, the On the way to city B, the strong wind is slowing the plane down by 10 kilometers per hour. On the way back to city A, the wind is stronger and is speeding the plane up by 20 kilometers per hour. Determine a quadratic equation to calculate the plane's average speed by using speed equals to distance time, product of distance and time. Give the average speed rounded to 2 decimals. Determine the duration of flight from city B to city A to the nearest minute. Excellent question. Let's see what is this question talking about, and then we'll get into the solution. So we have two cities, city A to B, and that is one part of the journey. The other part is returning from B to A, right? So that is the second part of the journey. So here is city A, city B. Then coming back to city A from B, journey, we are given that this is 1000 kilometers. So the distance is 1000 kilometers, which remains same for the flight. Then, while going from city A to B, there is wind, which is a strong wind against it, decreasing by 10 kilometers per hour. That means the speed, let me write speed with S, will become, if I take plane speed as p, minus 10, right? On the other hand, we have the wind, which is helping the plane move faster. So the speed in the second case is 10 more than the average speed, 20 more, right? So what we have done here is we have defined a variable, p, which is the average plane speed. Now, one reason to take p as your variable is in part A, it says determine quadratic equation to calculate plane's average speed. So that means we are definitely to define this variable. Then it says the second part is determine duration of time. So we have to also define the second variable, which is duration of time, which is given to us as 10 hours, total duration, right? So the total duration of time is 10 hours. Let us say time here is t. Then in that case, the time in the other condition while coming back will be 10 minus t, right? So let me write t2 and we say t1. Time for one going from A to B is t. Is that clear to you? Right. So time from A to B is t. Total is 10. 10 is equal to t1 plus t2. Return journey and going back. Going to A to B and then return journey. So second time it is 10 minus t. Is that clear to you? Right. So that is how we get the time part. So that is how we can actually have all the variables in place which we have to link. And how do we link them? We link them with this particular equation which is saying speed speed, distance, time. So the equation here is not very correct. It should have been distance is speed into time. So let me correct this part. Normally, I will make a triangle. I just copied the question from there. So here it is. And we will say that the distance is actually product of speed and time. Is that clear to you? Right. So that is the relation. So we are saying distance is speed times time. So this is the relation which is the correct relation which we have to use to relate the distance 1000 kilometers, and if you multiply speed into time they should be equal. Is that clear to you, right? So that is where we have to begin. So let's get back to the question once again in a different format. Now here is the summary of what we have just learned about the question. We know that city A and B are 1000 kilometer apart. So that is the total journey, and the total time taken is 10 hours. So what we have assumed is let the time from A to B be t, then from B to A time is 10 minus t. Since the total is 10, right? So total is 10. 10 in hours. Let plane average speed be p. So we have defined a variable, plane average speed. We have taken lowercase p. And while going, it is slower, so p minus 10. While returning, it is faster, p plus 10. Correct? And now we'll do part 1, which is deriving the quadratic equation for plane's average speed. Perfect? So let's see how to do this. So as I was saying, we relate distance, speed, and time with this particular triangle, easy to remember. So distance is product of speed and time. So in the first case, the distance is 1000. That is first case when I'm saying, I mean from A to B, right? So in this case, distance is 1000 and speed of the plane is p minus 10 and the time taken is t. Correct? So these are the things which relate the first part of the journey. P minus 10 time t and the city distance is 1000 kilometers apart. Is that clear to you? Right? Since we need equation in terms of the plane, we'll isolate time from here and we'll say 1000 divided by p minus 10 is t. And we'll call this as our equation number 1. Is that clear to you? Right, so that is how slowly we develop our equations to solve. Now let's look into the other part of the journey, which is returning from B to A. That is again 1000 kilometers. However, this time the speed is much faster. So this time it is 1000. Let me take a different ink. So let's say it is 1000, same distance, and speed is p plus 20. Time taken is 10 minus t. Total is 10, right? So time taken is 10 minus t. So we get our second equation. Do you see how? This is the journey which is the return journey. Clear? So during the return journey, we are taking p plus 20 as the speed and the time as from B to A 10 minus t. Perfect? Since total time is 10 hours. Clear? Now we need to find what is p. So what are we going to do here is substitute the value of t right there. Correct? Now this is slightly complicated. So let me just break this a bit and then we'll do the substitution. So we could write this as 1000 times. So when you open this, you have to apply the distributive property. That is, this term will get multiplied with both of them. So here we get p plus 20 times 10 minus t times p plus 20, right? So we just open this bracket. Is that clear to you? Correct? And now in this equation, we could substitute the value of p, right? So this t. So this t value, if I substitute here, in that case, we're going to get one equation, and this equation will be the required quadratic equation in terms of p. So I hope this equation is absolutely clear. Now on a fresh page, we'll actually solve this particular equation. So we have two equations. The first one is that the journey of 1000 kilometers is done with a plane speed of p minus 10 in the duration of t. So from here, we are writing t as equal to 1000 divided by p minus 10. The other part of the journey, which is return, it is at a much faster speed, and there we are saying 1000 is equal to higher speed p plus 20, and the time taken is 10 minus t. Total time was 10, so t has been for one part of the journey, 10 minus to the other part. This we can expand, and we can write this as 10 times p plus 20 minus t times p plus 20, right? So we just expanded this part, multiplying with 10 first and then with minus t. Is that clear to you? Now we'll rearrange and then solve this particular equation. Bringing this term to the left side, we get t times p plus 20 is equal to, we'll bring 1000 to the right side and open this bracket. So we have 10p plus 200 minus 1000, which is 10p minus 800. Clear? Now at this stage, we can substitute the value of t. So time we know is 1000 divided by this, which we are going to substitute here, rewrite, and then continue. So instead of t, I'm going to write 1000 over p minus 10, and then we have p plus 20 equals to 10p minus 800. Clear? Now what you see is we can actually cancel tens. Dividing by 10, we get 100 over p minus 10 times p plus 20 equals to p minus 80. Right? So what we have done is, at this stage, we divided by 10 both sides. So I'm saying divide by 10 both sides. So to solve equations, we should simplify as we move along. And now we'll cross multiply. Now when I say cross multiply, I'm going to multiply with this term p minus 10, the right hand side, right? So what we get here is 100 times p plus 20 equals to p minus 10 times p minus 80. So let's open this up, and we get 100p plus 2000 equals to p square minus 80p minus 10p plus 800. So we have a quadratic equation since this p square is there with us, right? So we can now simplify our terms. The right hand side could be written as p square minus 90p plus 800. And now we'll rearrange, and write down 0 equals to taking these terms which are on the left side to the right side. So we have p square minus 90p plus 800 minus 100p minus 2000, which is p square minus 90 and minus 100 is minus 190p, and the constant will become 1200 minus 1200. So this is the quadratic equation which we were looking for. Correct? So that was the quadratic equation. So we'll just, as a reminder, the question was determine the quadratic equation to calculate this plane's average speed, right? That is what we have just calculated, which is p square minus 190p minus 1200 equals to 0. Is that clear to you? So let's take it on a fresh page and do further calculations on this. So let me write down that we have a quadratic equation here. Let me write down here quadratic equation, which is p square, let's see what, minus 190p minus 1200 minus 190p minus 1200 equals to 0. So that becomes the quadratic equation for us. Now, how do we solve this? Well, just to give you the formula, if you have a quadratic equation which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, in that case, x is equal to minus b plus minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2 times a. Now this is a standard quadratic formula, right? So we just call this as quadratic formula. Now we are going to use this particular formula to find the value of p. Clear? So in this case, a is 1, b is minus 190, and c is minus 1200. So we get the value of p as equal to 190, negative of this, plus minus square root negative 190 square minus 4 times a is 1 for us and c is minus 1200 divided by 2 times 1. Is that clear to you? So that is your quadratic equation. Now we can use calculator to calculate this value. So what do we get here is we get a value which is, let me do square root of 190 square minus and minus. You can see minus and minus will become positive plus, right? So I'll do plus 4 times 1200, and that is 10 square root 409. Decimal value is 202.237. So let me write this as 190 plus or minus 202 plus 2374 divided by 2. So the plane speed is positive, so we'll take the addition part of it, correct? So let me write down this as equal to, so there are two values, but the negative value is not valid, correct? So we'll add 190 and then divide by 2 to get the speed of the plane, which is equal to, let me write down here as 196.118, right? So that is the plane speed which we get. So we have used the addition part only since we have to have a positive answer, and so we get a positive answer right there. So the speed of the plane P is, we have to round it to 2 decimal places. See, the important part here is round it to 2 decimal places, And that is the reason why we actually took 4 decimal places here. Dividing by 2 gives us the flexibility. We have 196.118. Now, we'll round it to 2 decimal places, so we'll get 196.12. The units are kilometers per hour. So it's very important to write down the units as we move along in all our answers. So that becomes the answer for the very first part, which is average speed of the plane, correct? Now the second part is the duration of the flight from B to A. But what is T for us? T is from A to B, right? So let's find this part B in different way. So we'll say, well, we'll find out the duration of flight. We know T is equal to 1000 divided by P minus 10. So which is 1000 divided by 196.12. And that value for us is how much? Let's calculate. Minus 10, right? So that value is 1000 divided by, within brackets, 196.12 minus 10. It is important to put the brackets. So we get 5.3728. This is what we get. But the time which we have to give, is it in? It is in nearest minutes. So we have to convert this part to minutes, right? So how do you do that? So let me write down this as 5 hours plus how many minutes? 0.3728 times 60. So when you multiply by 60, you get minutes. So I'm actually writing that and then multiply by 60 to get minutes, which is 22.37. So here we get this as 5 hours 22.3 means 22 minutes. So this becomes 22 minutes, and this is the solution for A to B. But what we want is B to A, right? So this is important to understand. Duration from B to A. So let's now work this out. So part B is time from B to A, which is equal to how much? Which is 10 hours. Take away what we got, 5 hours and 22 minutes. Clear? So when you take them away from this, you are left with 4 hours and 60 minus 22, 38 minutes. So that is going to be your answer for time for the return journey. Is that clear to you? So we have both the answers here. So let me write down the answers now. Average speed of the plane is, to 2 decimal places, 196.12 kilometers per hour, and time, the second time, right, from B to A is 4 hours and 38 minutes. Is that clear to you? So that is how we are going to solve this particular question. So let's have a look at what we have done here. So first we have to analyze the situation. We see that the flight is 1000 kilometers both ways. While going, speed is less by 10, while returning higher by 20. Total time being 10. We took t for going, so 10 minus t for coming back. The formula for distance is distance speed into time, which you could always remember using this particular triangle. Very important. And that gives you two equations. We got the two equations, and then we solve these two equations to find the value of plane's average speed, right? So that requires a lot of work as shown here on this particular page. However, important thing is to keep the focus. The focus for us is that we have to round the average speed to 2 decimal places, and so we should keep four decimal places in our calculations and then round it. Second, we have to find the duration of the flight while returning, and that has to be written in nearest minute. So we have to convert the decimal hour by multiplying it by 60 to get our answer, as we did in this particular case, right? You get an idea, right? So this is that part of converting into minutes. So a lot of things are involved in this question. I hope all the concepts are absolutely clear. Feel free to write your comments, share your views, and keep sharing. I really like it. Thanks a lot.